Hello and welcome to another Fight Site interview. Today we have the pleasure of Blaydes joining us, the top-ranked UFC contender. And we also have Ryan Wagner joining us. Of course, you know him from the Fight Site. Curtis, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Thanks. Ryan, say hello to the people who love you.
How's it going, guys?
First off, before we begin, just make sure that you check out thefightsite.com. You'll be treated to a plethora of phenomenal articles by analysts like Ryan and just technical breakdowns, staff picks, all that stuff. Just fantastic work. I cannot praise them highly enough. Also, make sure that you check out the Fight Site on Patreon. Support us there directly. You're treated to a ton of extra content that you can't get on the regular Fight Site. Access to the Discord. You can ask podcast questions. Make sure you go check us out on Patreon. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and share with your friends. It really does help us. And for our podcast, you can check us out on Apple, Spotify, and Stitcher. Leave a 5-star rating, comments, share. It really does help. With that out of the way, Ryan, I'm going to let you take it. You have some early career Curtis questions to ask.
Thanks, Ben. And thanks for joining us, Curtis. To get started, I wanted to get an idea of your background. So how did you get into wrestling, and then how did the MMA career become a thing? When did you know that you wanted to really make a run for it?
Okay. I started wrestling my freshman year of high school. I didn't have any experience prior to high school. I hadn't even heard of like legitimate wrestling. I just knew the WWE version. I knew that wrestling. So yeah, I started wrestling in high school. And I realized very early on, like midway through my freshman year, I was really good. And I knew I could possibly be one of the best in the state. So I kept doing it, wrestled all throughout high school. I'm from Illinois. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. Wrestling's pretty big there. So for me to win state my senior year back in 2009, that was a pretty big accomplishment for me, pretty big confidence booster. And I carried that on to me. I went to Northern Illinois. I had a wrestling scholarship there. I messed up my grades, though, so I only wrestled there for 1 year. Then I ended up going to a junior college in the area, a local one. It's called Harper Junior College. I was there for 2 years. My second year, I won JUCO Nationals. And then that was in 2012. Originally, I was supposed to go to an NAIA school called Lindenwood, and I was going to go there and continue wrestling, continue my education and all that. But I didn't get my fall transcripts in the time you have to get them in, so I wasn't able to register for classes. And I wanted to do something to like remain active. So a buddy of mine from high school who I wrestled with, he was already into MMA, and he and his father, they had been asking me for years to just come up to their gym and try out boxing and kickboxing. So I finally did, like around August of 2012. I was back home in Chicago. I was back home from school, and I was there for about a month, and then this dude walked in and was like, "Yo, do you want to fight?" And then I really didn't want to fight, but my buddy Angelo, he basically answered for me. And was like, "Yeah, we'll take the fight." And after he left, I was like, I really didn't want to do it, but he talked me into it. And pretty much the only reason I did do it was because he explained to me, with my wrestling on the regional level, I'd be able to take down almost everybody, which he was right. So I did the first amateur fight like mid-September of 2012. And after that, my plan was just to keep doing it until I lost. And I didn't lose until I made my UFC debut in 2016.
So was it a kind of thing where you fell in love with the sport, or was it just like, hey, this is working, why not keep going?
Yeah, it was the latter for sure. I didn't really foster like a true appreciation like like a love of the sport until I moved here to Denver and I started training at Easton's with Team Elevation and working with the coaches I have been working with. They just how they broke down the sport and how they explained the techniques and the situations and everything, just how they approach me. It it made me develop a strong appreciation. And at this point, now, yeah, I'm committed. I do love the sport, and I'm happy I made the decision.
That's awesome. It's kind of amazing to hear how many people in MMA have stories like that where they're just like, oh, I was doing another thing and then my buddy just pulled me aside and be like, hey,
Yeah.
let's go and fight. You're good at it. You can do it. So I was wondering about your collegiate wrestling career. What kind of style did you have as a wrestler? What were your favorite attacks there?
Oh, the double leg. I was almost exclusively uh, double legs. I never went for singles or anything else. I don't like the hand fight because most heavyweights were bigger up top than I was, and I knew that my greatest strength was my athleticism, and I knew hand fighting that it kind of takes away my strength. So I never really developed any strong hand fighting techniques. I just like to shoot, and I didn't have much of a top game. I would let guys up just to take them back down again.
That's interesting you say that because in especially your recent fights, you've been really good at controlling guys on the ground. Once they go down, they tend not to get back up. So how have you developed that kind of riding game, especially nowadays in MMA? You see a lot of guys with folk style backgrounds coming in, and it's almost kind of like shot new life into the MMA grappling game, where before in like 2006 and all that, there was a lot more jiu-jitsu oriented grappling, but nowadays you're seeing guys like Habib, Askren, Kamaru Usman, and you who have this really good wrestling oriented game, and a lot of guys just don't really know how to deal with that. So how did you develop such a kind of complete top game?
I just brought the few top game principles I did have from wrestling, brought them over to jiu-jitsu, and my jiu-jitsu professor here, one of the reasons that we clicked so well, he basically just took the things I already do well and was able to like tell me how to do it in a more jiu-jitsu like oriented way. Like the instead of just squeezing and holding, squeezing with my legs, which allows my hands to strike more. It's not it's like same but different. Like I'm doing almost the same things I did in wrestling, except it's almost easier now because guys they don't know how to deal with the pressure that I apply with my hips. I don't have to do as much work with my hands because they can't get they can't stop my leg pressure. So I'm able to hit more. It's just easier to hold down heavyweights who don't have my wrestling pedigree.
Do you mean which who is your main jiu-jitsu coach?
Cody Donovan.
Right.
He's a black belt
Mm-hmm.
under. Oh yeah, you know Cody. Well
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well yeah, you know his credentials. You know how he breaks things down. He almost breaks it down like you're a 5-year-old. That's kind of how I like it. Because jiu-jitsu is so like expansive, and you can get like lost when you get too deep and you stray off the path. I just need the basics. I'm not planning on becoming like submission specialist. I just want to learn how to hold you down so I can elbow you.
Right. So when you first came into MMA, you mentioned you started training in 2012. So you kind of jumped right from wrestling into MMA.
Yeah.
When you first started and when you started fighting more advanced competition that you couldn't kind of get down so easily, what did you find was working for you that you took from your wrestling background, and what wasn't working? So how did you have to adjust what you already had in wrestling for success in MMA?
Well, that's like the beauty of it. The way I wrestle was like almost built for MMA. Like the jab into the double leg is pretty much what I did for wrestling, except without a jab. Instead of jabbing, I would snap down your hands and shoot. So it's almost the same principles with the exploding off the back leg and head in the chest and doing like a. It's very aggressive. It just the transition from what I was doing on the wrestling mat, it was pretty easy to bring it into the cage, and I really didn't have any issues with applying my wrestling in the cage. It's honestly easier because guys don't know how to get their wrist control back. They don't know how to get off a broken down hip. Just the basic stuff that most heavyweights on the mat know. These guys don't know how to do it. So
Yeah, it's interesting that you were saying you didn't really like the hand fighting, because I find that a lot of the wrestlers who like that stuff, like clearing ties, hand fighting, and all that, kind of struggle to transition to MMA because you don't really have those engagements as much. But if you're
yeah,
shooting explosive double legs from the outside, setting them up by timing and your jabs and your snaps, then, like you said, there doesn't seem to be too much of a block to transitioning. You can kind of do the same stuff. Um, there's an interesting thing I've noticed in some of your fights when you're on guys' backs and you have the rear body lock. It seems like you often go to a high grip where it's almost kind of under their armpits rather than a lot of guys who will lock around the waist. I was wondering why that is. My theory is that it seems like a good way to avoid loading all their weight on you, so you don't have to just pick up giant heavyweights all the time. But I'm not too
yeah.
sure.
No, I mean I've done both locks, but yeah, I've found a bit more success bringing it higher underneath the chest because I'm pressing my hips into their hips, and I'm kind of like stacking them. And then when I bring them backwards, it makes it easier for me to pop my hips into their hips and get some air on them.
Right. So we were talking to Sean Madden, I think last week,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah, I
striking
watched
coach.
that one.
Yeah, and he was telling us that one of the things he'd like to see more from MMA fighters is more effective feinting. And
Yeah,
particularly in your last fight, I was just watching that, and you were feinting Junior Dos Santos out a lot with the jab. I think the finish came off like a level change feint. You
yeah.
feinted the takedown and then hit him with the right hand. So how has training with elevation been? How have they developed your comfort on the feet?
Uh, it's been everything. Like when I got here immediately after I lost my debut to Francis. And I don't know if you watched that one, but my striking was very bad. My angles, my distance, everything. I didn't know how to strike. I didn't have a striking coach back home in Chicago, so he was he was able to take me as a raw athlete, and I didn't have any habits. I didn't have any bad habits or good habits. I didn't have any habits, so he was able to just teach me everything how he wanted. And a main like one of the main ways to open up offense I learned from my striking coaches: the feints, the pumps, and the high lows, and just moving your upper body. Also, I've been adding in hip feints, like taking the calf kick and stuff like that, because my whole game is off of reactions. If I can get you to flinch or to square up, to bring your lead leg back, to square up, or to bring your hands up, any type of reaction, that's what I need to initiate my offense.
Yeah, you can really see your comfort on the feet developing a lot with them. Like in the JDS fight, I noticed there were a few times where you would pump the jab and then he would give a reaction, like try to hit you, and then you'd counter. So that looked really nice. Um, so with the team elevation and this having a striking coach and developing that kind of game, do
So
you do any kind of like pure striking training? Do you kickbox with kickboxers, or is it all focused around kind of MMA rules, sparring and drilling?
honestly, no. Majority of my sparring rounds, I'm wearing big gloves, and I kind of don't use my wrestling. I force myself to be a striker. I force myself to push my conditioning on the feet because I know I can take down everybody in the room and just ground and pound them. I want to get better on my feet, so most of my rounds are pretty much glorified kickboxing rounds. But that's how I like it, though.
It's
Um,
interesting. Go ahead.
So yeah, I just wanted to actually ask about sparring also, because in general, this is a question I do wonder about heavyweights in the sport. It's not like boxing, like, and this is something that we were actually mentioned to Sean. He wants to see it go the way of like the boxing camps where you bring in sparring partners and stuff like that. As a heavyweight, and you're, one of the bigger heavyweights too, how easy is it for you to have sparring partners that are either of a relatively similar size, and is it a struggle to find that, and does that affect your training in any way?
It was a struggle initially when I first moved here to bring in bodies because Elevation wasn't really like a heavyweight gym, so they didn't have anyone. I was the first one of note. So yeah, we started by bringing in local guys. They're no longer with the team. They were guys that my coaches knew. They reached out to them. We used them for like the first year, and then we eventually other guys started to move here or started to pop up, and we had a boxing guy who originally was from Jackson's, and now he's out here. We had a guy who used to play in the NFL, he was a fullback, and then he started doing jiu-jitsu at Easton's with under Elliott, and he got really good. And they were like, "Yo, would you want to do MMA?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he's been working with my striking coach, so he's been with us now for 3 years almost, and the growth he's made has been exponential. He's actually a really, really good sparring partner now because his jiu-jitsu, he knows I can take him down, but then I know once I take him down, it's going to be a problem because he's got great hips. I don't know. Do you know Zach Ponga? He's a
The name is,
Polynesian guy.
that's what, yeah, that's what I knew, it sounded familiar.
Yeah, he's one of my better training partners. He's been there for a couple years now. Just like guys like that, we've just slowly added a bunch of light heavyweights, I'm probably the biggest heavyweight besides Alistair, but we got enough heavyweights and light heavyweights, and I know how to take care of my partners. I'm not in there to hurt nobody. I just want to get better. So I honestly prefer going with light heavyweights. I go with Neil occasionally also just because he's got the reach. I know how to play. Like we play on our feet, and that's really helped me a lot. Just focusing on being on my feet in the majority of my rounds, and regardless of what skill level the heavyweight is, just having a body, somebody I can hit without having to worry about hurt them is good enough for me.
Now, how has it been working with Alistair Overeem? I got to imagine for someone looking to work on their striking and develop that game a little bit more, it has to have been a great resource.
Oh no, that was amazing. Like when he originally reached out and asked to come out here and work with me and the guys at Elevation, I was a little bit taken back, but he's very professional. He's like, bro, we already fought. It was a good fight. You won, but we're probably not gonna have to fight again. And I like your style, and I like to learn from you. I think you can learn from me, and it's been great. He's really helped me with my distance because he throws a lot of awkward strikes, and I just gotten better at reading him. And because he's so he's still a dangerous guy. I know a lot of people think he's older and slower and stuff. He's still fast. He's still strong. He's actually a very underrated grappler. He's got pretty good jiu-jitsu also off his back. So yeah, going with Alistair has been a tremendous help.
That's awesome. You love to see it. And yeah, like before he was this kind of monster striker, he was always known for his guillotine back in
Yeah,
Pride and everything. So he's a
he's
really
got me with
well-rounded
that.
fighter. Yeah. So when we were talking to Sean Madden, one thing he stressed a lot was the importance of working in transitions, using striking
Yeah,
to open up your wrestling and using your wrestling to open up your striking. Has that been a big emphasis in your training and something that you've been working a lot on?
yeah, that's a staple. That's one of the reasons I work so well with my striking coach. He understands just like Cody understands what I do best. He wants all my strikes to transition or to flow easily into my wrestling. So a lot of the combos we work, a lot of the transitions we work are built for me. Like I do a lot of my offense is based off my jab because my rear leg is always ready to explode. I don't like to use hooks a lot because hooks kind of plant you in the ground, and they don't play well with my high low game and stuff.
Right.
So Vinny's been great at just teaching me how to get to where I want to get. I mean, how to get to where I want to be like, in the fight. I know how to get to the clinch. I know how to get guys to half guard. I know how to back a guy into a corner and to cut angles. That's all Vinny.
Now, in your recent fights, you've been finishing guys a lot lately. So I was wondering if that's something you've been working on, developing power, especially in your top game. When you're on top of guys, you're not just kind of looking to control them and like until the round ends, you're controlling them and doing damage. Like you said, hipping in and sitting on the leg and freeing your hands up to strike. So how have you kind of developed that ability to finish guys?
Cody, he's really worked with me a lot on. He has like a system, and he likes to the way he explains it. He likes to keep guys in these half jujitsu positions where it feels like jujitsu to them, but it's really not. It's more just like grappling. That's what I do best. It's not really, the rules are different. So like he wants me to bait guys into going places, and then for me to trap them in between their transition, and that's where I land my strikes at. So like if I have a guy in half guard, I love half guard. If I have a guy in half guard, he's reaching up for a pummel instead of me just re-pummeling and getting back to position. He's taught me to toss an elbow as I re-pummel. Just little things like that, like teaching me to strike within the grappling exchanges. I've just gotten really good at that.
Right. Yeah, that half guard seems like a really popular position for a lot of wrestlers in MMA. Especially you get guys like turning into you, and a lot of them will kind of use that to do damage, like you said, and to go into their riding game. Like Matt Mitrione in a lot of his fights, he'll sit on the leg, beat you up a little bit, and then when you belly down, he's got you in a ride. He can like fight hands and everything and keep punching you. So that's awesome. I'm gonna throw this over to you, Ben, now.
Sure.
He's a Marcelo Garcia purple belt, so he's probably gonna want to ask you questions about you beating up BJJ guys.
I do forgive you, first of all. So, I just wanted to clear the air there. I know. So it's interesting that you said that you don't have any interest in really becoming a submission guy. And I think that actually is something that we see hold true for most wrestlers who come across into MMA. And it's just something I always wanted to know, what's the reason why? We have the occasional guy like Chris Weidman, who, aside being amazing at ground and pound, is also a really good submission grappler in his own right. Why? What do you think is the reason that people just don't gravitate?
To me, it's like the difference between, I don't know if you watch basketball, but the difference between a American big man and like a European big man.
Mm-hmm.
It's like wrestling to me is an American big man in basketball, and jiu-jitsu is the more finesse version of a big man. And that's just not how my mind works. I'm not looking to go for a Darshman. I could just elbow you. I'm not looking to go for a Kimura. I could just elbow you. I know that I have the conditioning to just to stay on top and just beat you into submission. And for me, the energy spent holding you down and beating you, it's efficiently used. I feel like when I start going for submissions, I put too much into it. I could gas out. I don't want to gas my arms out. I don't want to go for it and it doesn't happen. I'm like, oh shoot, what next? And my arms are too tired, and now you get up, and now I'm like, oh, I can't throw a jab now. I can't sprawl. So I just rather hit you. I know it doesn't take a lot of. It's really just gravity. I'm just dropping my heavy fist on you, and that takes no energy. And I feel like a lot of guys, like in the fight last night, Glover Teixeira versus Anthony Smith.
Mm-hmm.
There was so many times when I was awake where I would see him landing 2-3 strikes, and then he go for rear naked.
Yeah.
And he go back to 2-3 strikes, or go for rear naked. And it wasn't working. But had he just thrown 8 strikes or 9 strikes, probably would have ended. That's just how I think. I'm not against submissions, because if that's your game and you're good at it, you do it. But I'm more of a damage guy.
Would you say that stems from the I guess this is the term that was used by we were talking to Jimmy Pedro, who's the U.S. Judo, the head of U.S. Judo, and he said that it's a meat grinder mentality. I guess just
I want to
sure.
break you. I want
Exactly.
to break you. Yeah, that comes from the wrestling, like how you beat guys. Because there's not that many moves to do in wrestling. It's like 8 moves really. It's who can do them more times with proper technique. And if I shoot, that's always been my idea. If I shoot 20 times, you can't stop all of them. I'm gonna get one, which leads to two, which leads to four, which leads to 8. I had a lot of matches in high school and in college where I was racking up 6, 7, 8, 9 takedowns. So that's just how I've always just thought.
So that leads to a question about how your wrestling is different from the other two. I think literally the other 2 wrestlers in the division, which is Stipe, Stipe and DC.
It's not many of us.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a coincidence that you guys make up, the champ, number 1 and number 3. I mean, there's a reason. But you all have different styles. DC is more of like he works in the clinch and the high crotch and stuff like that. And then you have Stipe, who really has a good snatch single. And you, like you said, you're a blast double, and you also have that really good high body waist lock. How do you feel you match up specifically on that wrestling, and where do you see things that maybe you could take advantage of that they're not necessarily at their best at?
Well, like I said, I think that the way I wrestle transitions the most fluid into MMA because I don't need to grab you. I don't need to be that close. I mean, I want to be able to touch you with a jab, but I have long arms. I don't have to be as close as, say, Stipe. To do a snatch, you have to be like maybe a yard away. I could do my double leg from 2 to 3 yards away. So I just think, and guys, they know about it. They know it's fast. They know it's explosive. You got to react. So just like Junior, he was so committed to stopping it that you start dropping your hands. You start breaking the fundamental rules of striking in order to stop my wrestling. And I think that's what makes me different. Is the threat of my takedown is so explosive, and you end up in such a bad position because you're going on your back. So, and no heavyweight wants to be there. Guys react differently because DC, if you jab him, keep him at bay, he can't do what he wants to do. Same thing with Stipe. You keep him at bay, he can't really do what he wants to do. Me, I could be a couple yards away and just high low, and you just, it's like an invisible wall that I'm pressing on you. Even though I'm not touching you, it's just like my head moving and my pressure. You can feel that. And guys go backwards without me even like touching them. Like my fight in Abu Dhabi, I was able to back up Abdurrahimov without even really throwing a punch, just high lowing because he knows it's on the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually have a very big Shamil fan, and he may or may not have been angry at us.
He's the judo guy.
Yeah.
Combo. Yeah.
So it's like you traitors, something like that. So I actually wanted to speak about your upcoming fight. I'm pretty sure you're booked to face Volkov, and it's June 20th or something like that. What kind of do you guys? I know we when we spoke with Sean, you guys definitely do specific training and stuff like that for your opponents. But we've seen Volkov get put on his back by other people, and I'm sure that's definitely like a mental boost to note that you've seen him there. We know, but the last person he faced that got him there was Verdum, and he was able to work his way out consistently. What kind of things are you working on to kind of, I guess, prevent him from being able to take advantage of any openings or stuff to stand up? We know he's tough. We know he can take a beating. What kind of stuff do you see that you can take advantage of personally?
The pressure I bring when I'm on the ground and my hips are into you, it's not as easy to get. Like the thing with Verdum, he's a jiu-jitsu player. Mm-hmm. So the pressure he has is more of that, like, let's to float. I'm not floating. I'm not looking to pass. I'm looking to pin you, to anchor you down. So when Volkov turns or rolls or does any movement to get up, I got that bottom leg pinned. You're not going anywhere. And if you do, it's going to be a struggle. Kind of like my Mark Hunt fight, how he kept getting up, but each time I'm like a backpack. And by the time you get up, I'm in position to take you back down. So that's really what I think the difference is. My grappling pressure, like how I'm going to stick to him like glue. And also, I'm going to be throwing heavy strikes. So if he wants to stand up, he's going to eat 4 or 5 punches, and then I'm going to take him right back down. He can do it over and over and over. I'm prepared to score 10 takedowns. I'm trying to break records.
You actually do already have the record for heavyweight takedowns, just so and it's by a wide margin. And number 2 is Kane, so I think you've got this one. Speaking of, you're essentially I say this in the most respectful way. You're essentially a baby in the heavyweight division because anybody under 30 is already a rarity, especially in the heavyweight rankings. And you're 29 and you've only been fighting for 6 years. So, and a lot of the guys are kind of older in that. And as you grow and become more of a crusty veteran, how do you expect to kind of change to deal with the no longer being an up and comer? Because I guess I can imagine there might be a mentality shift. Like you're no longer the new guy, you're now becoming more of a veteran. Is there some sort of mentality shift, like as you start to be like, okay, so this is the new crop, and there's going to be new things to kind of have to face?
I'm an athlete, like a lot of athletes. Like I don't know if you've been watching the MJ documentary, but he's one of the greatest athletes and competitors I can think of. And just like him, I'm looking to grind you into a dust, especially if you're new. I'm not gonna let you get any type of confidence. Like I doubt I ever do, but if I ever get like a debut guy, I'm gonna press the shit out of him. Like I'm not gonna give him any space. I'm gonna let him know he doesn't want to be in here because I'm a veteran. Like you said, I like that. I like going from being the hunter to the hunted because I enjoy that. I enjoy the pressure. I want to see how bad do you guys want to beat me. Like, are they willing to do what I'm willing to do to win? And I don't think a lot of guys are because I've always got the wrestling in my back pocket. And I don't think unless I can't think of any up and coming young heavyweight wrestlers who might potentially want to jump in this game. Because a lot of wrestlers, the biggest thing, they don't want to get hit in the face. That was my biggest issue. I didn't want to get hit in the face, and it took like 2 years of sparring for me to get over that. I think by the time I'm a grizzled veteran, like 2-3 years from now, I'll be such a complete fighter by then. My jiu-jitsu is getting better. It's still the weakest part of my game because I don't have to use it as much, but by then I should be at least grappling. I'm already grappling, in my opinion, like a blue belt. I think in another 2 years I'll be grappling like a purple belt, which is good enough for me.
Speaking of grappling, do you see yourself doing things a lot of fighters have kind of done because you can't take boxing matches, you can't take kickboxing matches outside of the once you're in the UFC specifically, but for whatever they allow you to take grappling matches. Do you see yourself doing stuff like that, like with any sort of regularity?
Yeah, I definitely want to do some no-gi competitions. I wish they still handed out the katanas. I never got one. I always wanted one of those.
I think Naga might still do them. I
might have to do a Naga then because I definitely want one of those.
Oh yeah, they do that with a belt. There's one gym that had like 46 katanas because I just kept going to Naga because it just wanted to. Do you ever see yourself putting a gi on?
I did originally. Have you heard of Rodrigo Comprito?
Mm-hmm.
He's a Brazilian who always has like the green, purple. Well, he's Illinois based, and that was the first jiu-jitsu mat I ever stepped on was him, Braza. And he gave me my first gi. I have a Braza, Team Braza gi. But I didn't like it. It kind of removes my explosiveness and my athleticism. Like an old man can lock me up in his guard with the gi. But
why we love jiu-jitsu.
That's one of the parts I don't like. I don't like when old guys hold me down, especially with gi. So it frustrates me. Maybe as I get older, my appreciation for gi will grow. But as of right now, I haven't worn that gi in 8 years.
I mean, that's kind of the reason why I'm able to have any success is I can slow down everyone.
Yeah,
I don't have
those handles
speed.
and hooks.
Yeah, I don't have speed or athleticism, so I have to rely on the gi. I actually wanted to pivot to a different grappling martial art, judo, because we spoke with a couple of judo guys, and we were talking about the applicability of judo in MMA. Do you work any judo? Do we have, like, you have a jiu-jitsu coach, you have your wrestling and stuff like that, but is judo something that is worked on at EFT? I don't think we even asked Sean that.
No, I mean, one of my old roommates, Chepe Machine Gun Maniscal, he's a judo black belt from the Chicago area. He also moved out here. He's probably the most experienced judoka we have at the gym, and he's like showing us a few things here and there. But judo is just like wrestling. Like, I feel like it's harder to grasp that as an older guy because you got to get tossed on your back over and over and over. So you got to get the feel for the leverage and all that. Like, it's hard to pick up wrestling and judo as an older guy. Jiu-jitsu is, I feel like it lends itself. It's easier for people to pick up because it's not as high contact. So judo as a heavyweight, I'm not really interested in getting tossed on my back 100 times to perfect the move. So I don't foresee myself ever really getting into judo like that. But I do see some situations because I've watched, like I said, Chepe. I watched him in sparring toss to everybody. He's tossed Corey Sandhagen, TJ Dillashaw, Gaethje, Austin. If you lean your head over, he's going to snatch it, put his hip up under you, and you're going to be looking at the ceiling. He's done it to almost everybody. So I know it can be applicable. It's just, and also the height thing. You have to get your hips up under guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm usually the taller guy. Maybe if I had some judo for this fight against Volkov, it would be good to know. But outside of him, it would be really hard for me to get my hips under a lot of guys.
So do you plan at all for? I've asked this to more. This is more jiu-jitsu guys, and I kind of got an answer on both sides of it. But do you plan at all for when you like becoming good at certain things, not necessarily to use now, but to use later when maybe you're going to be more, older, and maybe the athleticism isn't going to be something you're going to necessarily rely on as much. Learning skills that are more applicable at then, I guess, is a better question.
Yeah, for me, really the guard passing. I want my guard passing to be as crisp as it can be because I know eventually I won't be able to just hop over everyone's legs or just big man out of every move. Like, proper passing eliminates a lot of opportunities for reversals and bottom submissions. So that's the biggest thing I think about in practice is working on my transitions from half guard to C cut to captain's chair to smash pass back to captain's chair. Just those transitions, I work on those a lot. I know later on, in my games, as I get older, my game's going to be even more wrestling oriented because as you get older, you get slower, you get more hittable. So I plan on, in my last years of fighting, being a lot more like a Randy Couture, like getting you against. Another thing I work on a lot because of Alistair is clinch warfare. Like, I've gotten a lot better at learning how to hand fight in the clinch. That wasn't ever a thing I really focused on. But having Alistair here, he lives in the clinch, so he's just forced me to get better at that.
I think it's really important that you're doing that because for other fighters to hear too, because most fighters kind of just do what works for them and they grow in those areas, and it seems like they hit that peak and then physical decline, and they're just like they got to retool their game. Yeah, you're planning ahead, and I think I don't know if I've ever had the chance to ask a fighter, but I've never heard a fighter even verbalize Yeah, of course I'm planning for when I can't do what I normally do.
Yeah.
So.
Oh no, these knees of mine, Dave. There's a clock on them. I won't be able to hit that double leg forever.
Brian, I've been talking almost too much probably. So back to you for sure.
So I was wondering recently, especially with the last card, there's been a lot of discussion about kind of the role of corners in protecting fighters. There was that scene where Anthony Smith handed the ref his tooth after getting it knocked out by Glover, and he was telling his corner, I think between the 4th and 5th rounds, like he's knocking my teeth out. And his corner has been criticized a lot for letting the fight go on. So I was wondering where you stand in that discussion. Do you think that corners have a responsibility to stop the fight when the fighter is taking a lot of punishment, or as someone who's obviously a competitor, would you prefer that they let that go on and give you every chance that you have?
There's a lot of gray area in there. It depends on your past. Like, have you had a recent history of getting KO'd? Is your jaw? Have you not ever been KO'd? Is it heavyweight? Is it light heavyweight? Is it bantamweight? That's also a factor. And then what part of the round is it? Are we at the end of the round, like the last 40 seconds, and you're getting hauled off on? I'll let you stay in there if it's just that. But Anthony Smith's situation, he was getting beat up for like whole rounds. Like that should have been stopped. I do believe his corner failed their responsibility. You know your fighter. You know if he has the ability to pull something out of the bag. Like, you know that. Anthony Smith doesn't have power. He's not a big light heavyweight. After he's getting pummeled for 3 rounds, how else is he supposed to win? He has to pull off a heavy a KO. That's not in his game. His game is like finesse. But by then, it's too far gone. He can't implement his game plan. He's already too beat up. So I would have stopped it after the 3rd. Personally, I would have stopped it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that fight definitely went on too long. I guess in wrapping up, is there anyone, if you're looking at the landscape of the division, is there anyone that you'd like to fight that you haven't got a chance to?
Oh, Derek Lewis. I've asked for him multiple times, and he always has an excuse. This time, because I wanted him originally, but they gave me Volkov instead. My manager was told he's having heart surgery. I don't believe it. Because I asked for him right after he beat Latifi. I thought he lost that fight, but I called him out immediately, and the immediate response was, "Oh, he's going to get heart surgery next week." I'm like, but he just fought. So how bad is his heart if he just fought? So yeah, I don't believe that.
The important question after that is, do you think he can also bench press you off of him?
I saw that. He must not watch any of my fights. If he thinks I'm going to take him down and just rest. It's like he must not watch any of my fights, which is good. If that's what, like, he knows he's going on his back. He knows that. He knows the way he strikes. He puts everything into every punch. Even when he throws flying knees, he puts everything into. Like, I'm gonna catch one of those and put you on your butt, and then you're screwed because he's not getting up. He doesn't have any type of jiu-jitsu. I don't know if you've seen any of his fights on the ground.
Oh yeah.
He has no type of grappling acumen at all.
Yeah, it's kind of a running. It's not a joke because I mean I'm not going to make fun of Derek Lewis because I like being alive, but no, it's like, oh, I'm just going to stand up. Like, he just stands up and throws heavyweights, and it was just every time I watch it, I'm like, why does? But I do that, and it just gets me caught in a choke. So what the hell is going on here? Yeah, but that's what I was like. We haven't really seen. I think the best wrestler we've seen him against
was Latifi.
Maybe, yeah.
He held him down for 8.5 minutes out of a 15-minute fight. I know he didn't land a lot of ground and pound, but in my book, he won that fight. If you held top position for 8.5 minutes in a 15-minute fight. That's over half the fight. And Derek Lewis, he never landed anything that looked like it really hurt. He was throwing those crazy jumping, flying knees from halfway across the octagon. Like his fighter IQ is not the highest. Some of the strikes he throws, I'm like, why? And like he knows he has a bad gas tank, but he still chooses to use the most explosive moves he can think of. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't get it.
Ryan, sorry, I think I interrupted you before.
I was just wrapping up. So Curtis, is there anything you'd like to promote? Anything you got going on that you want to shout out?
I mean, as always, I want to give a shout out to Team Elevation and all the coaches and all my sparring partners who helped me become the fighter I am today. I'd like to give a shout out to Manscaped. They're one of my sponsors. I'd like to give a shout out to, I hate this, I always forget who my sponsors are. I'll just do better next time. I have a list. I can't remember them.
I'm Jewish, so I got this for you. The whole ganze mishpucha. That's what you're giving a shout out to. It's the whole family. The whole family.
Everybody.
Well, in that case, Curtis, thank you so much for coming on. It was awesome having you. Really appreciate it. More than welcome anytime. This offer went out to Sean. It goes out to you. If you want to drunk watch some fights with us, please feel free to join. We'd be happy to have you.
I'm more of a stoner.
I got you covered. Oh, well, you should have just told me. I would have busted out my pipe.
Definitely more of a stoner. Like we were watching the fights last night. There was no alcohol here. There was lots of guys.
Okay, we're definitely okay. We have to book that. We're gonna definitely have to book that. That sounds like a blast. Ryan, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. I had a great time.
Of course. Yeah,
Thanks,
awesome. Once again, make sure you check out thefightsite.com. Amazing articles, amazing work. The Fight Site on Patreon. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, comment. Make sure that you also check us out, the podcast, leave a comment, 5-star rating, Spotify, Apple, and Stitcher. Also, make sure you follow Curtis Blaydes on Instagram and on Twitter. Probably Facebook, I'm guessing, if you have a fan page. I'm sure you can find him pretty easily. Just search Curtis Blaydes Twitter, Curtis Blaydes Instagram. I guarantee you'll find him. Elevation Fight Team, make sure you follow them and support them. And Curtis Blaydes is fighting once again June 20th of 2020. Alexander Volkov, make sure you go and send him some love and support him. Thank you all so much for listening. It's been Ben Kohn with another Fight Site interview.